Now we have reached the testate amoebae, where the main part of the body is enclosed inside a shell and only the pseudopodia emerge from the orifice of the shell. This is a species of Euglypha which has very fine pseudopodia. These pseudopodia can extend to more than 30 microns from the shell. The testate shell is held aloft and the amoeba moves like a snail. At times the testate can move quite rapidly. This is another Euglypha species moving left along a bent root hair of white clover to the root surface proper. Note again that the shell is held aloft and is not dragged along the root hair. This is a species of Cochleopodium, and this amoeba represents a transitional stage between the testate and naked amoebae. Here the shell is represented by a flexible cuticle or tectum of minute scales, which are most readily seen with the electron microscope. It is shaped like a limpet with a raised central region containing many refractile crystals and a nucleus on the right. You can see threads of cytoplasm along the posterior side of the cell, and a few little pseudopodia can be seen projecting from under the tectum on the anterior side. It may look like a limpet, but it can at times move quite quickly. The heliozoa are the next protozoan group. In this group, there is a central body surrounded by spines radiating in all directions. Here you can see a heliozoan in low power interference phase with a central body of about 20 microns. They appear like floating pincushions. Any prey that falls on the spines is transported down the spines to the central body, where they are engulfed by a pseudopodium. These heliozoans function like spiders' webs in the soil solution. In higher magnification, you can see bead-like swellings on the spines. These are the extrusosomes, which are concerned with the capture of the prey. This specimen is probably a centrohelidian heliozoan of the genus Rhaphidophris. Note the scales around the central body. It is slightly green as it has been eating algae, and it has excreted some material at the bottom right. Here we have the holotrichs ciliates. The cilia are present all over the body and can drive the body rapidly through the soil solution. This is a species of glaucoma. I wanted to show that some ciliates can move rapidly backwards as well as forwards. This ciliate is a hymenostome of the genus Calilembus. The mouth is on the left and the contractile vacuole is on the right. The mouth is surrounded by two lines of cilia, between which lies an undulating membrane, and this arrangement of cilia helps the ciliate to separate out the suitable small particles of food for the mouth. The next ciliate is a hypertrich, where the individual cilia are fused into groups which are termed cirri. The mouth is on the top right, and you can see the cirri beating vigorously to create water currents that carry food particles towards the mouth. Note the prominent cirri at the posterior end of the body. The next sequence shows how flexible these hypertrichs can be. Here is and you can see in the next sequence a hypertrich moving along up and down the root surface, doubling back on itself while feeding on the bacteria without doing any apparent harm to itself. Many ciliates exist in the root region that prey on other protozoa, and the next sequence shows such an elongated species of Litonotus, which is over 100 microns long, moving along a white clover root. I think it would be quite easy to confuse this ciliate with a nematode at first sight. The peritrichs are a large group of ciliates where the cilia are confined to two spiral whorls of cilia around the apex of the adult cell. There are colonial and solitary peritrichs in the root region, but both forms are attached to roots by stalks. These ciliates periodically grow through a process of contraction and expansion. In some species, only the cell itself contracts. In other instances, the cell and the stalks contract together. Below the apical spiral whorls of cilia lie the buccal cavity and the contractile vacuole. Bacteria and other food particles are drawn into the buccal cavity by the water currents, and eventually some of the particles are concentrated in food vacuoles at the bottom of the buccal cavity. You can see the gradual movement of food vacuoles from left to right in the body until they reach the bottom of the body. Since not all the food particles that are swept into the buccal cavity are ingested, there must be mechanisms that control the amount of food ingested. All peritrichs that colonize the root surface have mobile juvenile stages, the so-called telotrochs. These teletrochs are budded off from the adult colonies and move to new areas of the soil environment.